I approve.
I wanted to go fully black and white for the movie we're doing today. So I got my black and white AC/DC, and I was looking for like a white shirt, but I didn't have one, so I only had sweater. So hopefully I don't burn up before this review is over, because I have my lights on in my office to get good lighting, and the window closed so I don't hear any noise. So it gets hot really quick. But
That hat looks like it's been through the wars. That looks like circa 1982.
no, it's actually it's one of those like you buy it that way.
Oh,
It's
really?
not really,
Okay.
yeah, you buy it beat up. That's part of the style. It's
I
kind of
hadn't
like,
seen that with hats. Okay.
yeah, it's kind of like how you buy like washed out jeans or
Yep.
jeans with holes in it and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But this is I haven't worn it very much. I usually wear my Nike hat backwards. I don't wear hats at all. I'm just wearing it because since the quarantine, I haven't gotten a real haircut. So I just shaved my head at the beginning of quarantine. It grew back too much. Then I shaved it again recently. Once it grows out enough, I'll stop wearing hats again. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's my boring backstory. So what did you think? What were your general thoughts without giving away too much about the movie?
I like it. I actually I saw this movie in the theater back in 2017, and I bought the DVD once it came out. I actually hadn't watched the DVD until yesterday, though. So, yeah, overall, I enjoyed this film. Pretty good.
Okay, because yeah, our poll was either this or Us for Jordan Peele, his two directorial films, and you said you'd only seen both of those movies once, right? So this would have been your
Correct.
first one either. Okay.
Correct. In regards to Us, I liked the premise of Us. I just did not like the resolution of Us. I didn't like the explanation, put it that way. So I like this one a lot better.
Um, like yourself, I saw both once, and on initial viewing, I liked this one a lot better than Us as well. It would have been interesting to rewatch either, but this was definitely my preference on the first viewing of both
Yeah.
of them as well. Okay, so let's get into Jordan Peele a little bit, then we'll get into the movie. This was technically his directorial debut, but he was in the business for a long time. And for me, like watching his two movies, you definitely get the sense that this is a comedian, because not only is there like a lot of jokes in his movies, to me to the detriment of it because they're horror movies, like it cuts away at the tension a lot when you're cutting in jokes. But I think it's also one of his biggest attributes as well, because as a comedian, everything has a purpose when you're telling a joke. It's like you're setting things up for a payoff. And I think the biggest strength of both of these movies that he's made is that everything pays off. There's nothing wasted on screen. Everything you see, everything that's said, everything that's on screen is later pays off with something else. And I think that's part of being a comedian. What do you think of him, his movies, and his directing style?
It's interesting. He's only done just the two films. He has nothing else pending in terms of directing, anyway. So I'm just curious because both of these movies were very successful too. So I'm curious as to why there isn't something in the fire. But no, I do agree that when you're dealing with whether it be violent movies, horror movies, whatever, humor always tends to sneak in there and cut the tension a little bit. I think back to when I was a little kid watching An American Werewolf in London, and that thing is peppered with comedy in it, but it's still also a very gory horror werewolf movie, and when you have both of those working together, I think it's fantastic. Quentin Tarantino does the same thing too. He's got witty dialogue and jokes and things, and it works. It really does cut the tension. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. I think he's producing the Twilight Zone series. From what I heard it didn't do well, but they have like a second season on a different network. I think
Right.
initially it was CBS. I think the second season might be somewhere else. It might be CBS as well, but I haven't seen it. And I think he's had a big hand in the Candyman remake, I think production
Yeah, he
wise.
he is listed as a producer on that. Yes.
Yeah, so he's done a lot of other stuff, but not like been the guy as far as writing, directing like he did with these two movies.
Right. I would imagine he's got some stuff coming, but nothing pending yet that we know about anyway. So
I'm sure the shutdown probably Some saying that as well. So
Right,
yeah.
right.
Okay, so this movie opens with a cold open.
Yo, yo, hey!
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You see it in a lot of horror movies. We reviewed a movie, The Pit, where I think when we reviewed it, we both agreed that the cold open didn't work because it took away from the tension and the slow build that a movie can have. Did you think the cold open in this case helped or hurt with setting up the movie?
To be honest with you, when I was watching that opening, I was a little confused, and I'm still a little confused as to what that was even about. Obviously, you get into the film a little bit, we know what kind of what's going on. Was that just another victim of this? I don't want to say family, but it's a group of people. Um, I, I guess I didn't know if there was going to be connection between that and later on. I guess you assume it is, but I thought it was a little odd, to be honest with you. I didn't mind it, but I just thought it was odd.
Hmm. Well, that's the character that comes back later in the movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the only thing I thought odd about it was in that they do this in a lot of movies where you have to, where it's like, okay, this is a character that's just there to show what the bad guys do. And it's like if they got rid of him so quickly, why all the elaborate setup for a main character? It's like, okay, he comes into town, bam, you just like knock him out, put him in the trunk of the car, and then you do the brain surgery. And it's like, all right, we see that. That's what they do. That character comes back later. It's a setup for later things to come. But you always wonder, it's like, okay, so why take so long with our lead character where it's like the dog and pony show where you do the party and everyone meets him and he gets time to figure things out. Yeah, you wouldn't have a movie if you didn't do it, but it's like it kind of like makes you think about things you shouldn't when you see stuff like that.
I mean, for me, it was like when that happened, it's like it happened so quickly. Is like, I'm saying, is this a really important detail? I need to be paying attention. Do I need to see this guy's face? Do I need to know exactly what it is? Is this a random thing? I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of the way I felt about it. It happened so quickly. I was like, I don't even know if I'm supposed to pay attention or if this is really important or not.
Then from there, we get introduced to Chris and Rose. They establish right away with the pictures that he's a photographer and that they're going to visit Rose's parents and they don't know what he looks like. This is a little bit implausible, but again, you have to fudge things or you don't have a movie. In the day and age of Instagram and Facebook, it's
Right.
like, are they really not going to know what he looks like? And this is a fairly young girl. Her character is like in her mid-20s. She is going to be all over social media. It's like there's no way they don't know what he looks like.
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend, and I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
You said I was the first black guy you ever dated.
Yeah, so what?
Yeah, so it's just uncharted territory for, I don't want to get chased off the lawn with a shotgun.
Yeah, you would be surprised how many movies actually do this. I watch a lot of garbagey exploitation films. My wife watches Hallmark movies, so she watches my crap, I watch her crap. So I see a lot of Hallmark movies too, and in those movies they do the same thing where a family is meeting a boyfriend girlfriend for the first time, and it's like they've never seen this person, they know nothing about him, and it makes no sense because these people are all in their mid-20s. They're online, they have pictures, but somehow nobody knows anybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not realistic in this day and age. Then from there, we get introduced to the comedy sidekick.
So I'm mad at you because you never take my advice.
Like what?
Like, don't go to a white girl parent's house.
She doing licking your balls or something?
Yeah, bye.
You know what I'm saying, Chris?
Chris. This motherfucker hung up on me.
I'm not a big fan of these characters. Generally, they're usually there to make the main character look good by being messed up, like having like a crazy life that they can't get together, to contrast the main character. They're usually less attractive, overweight. They're usually a diversity character, like, minority, even though there's obviously the main character is minority as well. I don't like these characters, whether it's an all white cast and it's just like a one black character. I don't like them anymore even if it's like a lot of black people in the cast as well. Like I still think these characters are just, I understand they serve a function, make the main character look better in comparison, have a few jokes in there, but I'm not a big fan of these characters. I thought he was pretty funny,
I got hypnotized last night.
Nigga, get the fuck out of here.
but I just don't like these characters in general though.
Yeah, I loved him.
I don't know if you know this. White people love making people sex slaves and shit.
I thought he was one of the highlights of the film. I loved every part of him.
My boy Chris has been missing for 2 days.
Your son is missing.
Oh, no. Not my son. My friend, he's 26.
I don't know if I have an overall strong opinion either way about characters like this, but if I didn't like him, I would have liked this guy because he was pretty darn funny, I thought.
Yeah, like I even for me who has a strong feeling, I can still say he's funny.
I believe they've been abducting black people, brainwashing them, making them work for them as sex slaves and shit. Oh, sorry about the shit.
Then from there we have the cop incident, and obviously I think this is a Blumhouse production, and this is Jordan Peele. With Blumhouse, you get full reign, full autonomy as a filmmaker to do whatever you want because it's low budget films. They just let you go wild. Obviously, this is Jordan Peele's vision 100%. But for me, this is lost opportunity, not just in today's culture. Obviously, this was released 3 years ago, probably shot 4 years ago, with the tension with cops and blacks and being stopped for traffic things and things getting out of hand.
Sir, can I see your license, please?
Wait, why?
Yeah, I have state ID.
No. He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to see his ID.
I even thought back then this was an opportunity to say something, not just because he's a black filmmaker, but because race has so much to do with this film. But this goes nowhere with the cop. I even thought the cop should have probably came back at the end and maybe killed him. And then you could have had like a dark ending where the cop kills him and then saves Rose, and then she goes on to keep doing this stuff.
Help me.
And I thought that could have been like a way to go. But this was just here for mainly for the Rose character to have a scene where it's like, oh, the next time you watch it, it wasn't her defending him. It was her trying to protect herself from like, a paper trail or people finding out that like Chris went to her house for the weekend or whatever. What did you think of that scene? Any strong feelings, or just nothing much to it?
No strong feelings either way, but yeah, that would have been a very dark ending had the cop come back and, quote unquote, saved her from him. That would have been interesting. I hadn't seen this since the theater, and I honestly couldn't remember. I knew the main plot obviously, but I couldn't remember all the little details. I actually thought Rod, the character of Rod, the sidekick, I thought he died, and I was thinking that was going to happen now, so I was kind of surprised that it didn't. So yeah, I don't have a strong feeling either way on that, but that would have been dark had they gone that way, and they very well could have. Why not?
Yeah. But hey, it's not like studio interfered or producers interfered. That's what he wanted, for his ending. So you can't really argue with it, if it's the director's vision.
It's a happy ending. I have no problems with happy endings.
Mm-hmm.
Most horror films do have somebody survive. So
and from the cop interaction, we meet the parents and the brother, and also the servants, who we don't know at this time are the grandparents. Interesting few scenes where I guess they have maybe like a light lunch, and then there's a dinner scene. Again, a lot of stuff that's set up that pays off later on in the film. Any thoughts in this section of the film?
No, in fact, they seem to be pretty much following the script. Obviously, we learn later on that they've been doing this exact same script over and over again for who knows how long. But no, they played it up well. Like I said, when I first went to the movie theater to see this, I try to go into movies blind, not knowing a whole lot about the plot. So I didn't think anything suspicious of the family at first until we saw some of the, Georgina and such, their creepiness. That something seemed odd there, obviously for good reason. But yeah, I bought into everything the family was doing at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, there are things that are set up here that pay off later on, or things that are just like interesting on the second viewing, where the way they were so bothered by him smoking, and it turns out obviously they're bothered by him smoking because they want to use that body, and he's like, damaging the body by being a smoker.
Do you realize how dangerous smoking is?
Her brother, talking about, hey, like you have to. I forgot what he said. It was jujitsu.
So the thing about jujitsu is strength doesn't matter, right? It's all about this.
But he was basically saying it's a thinking man's martial arts. And again, that's something that pays off at the end, because when they're having their final fight, he kicks the door. Every time he tries to grab it, the brother kicks the door closed. And then finally, he goes to kick the door. He goes to open the door. And then when the brother puts up his leg, he stabs it. So it was like, hey, thinking a few steps ahead and things like that. So things like that are set up and paid off. But yes, it's pretty much by the books, with that section of it. Then you have the scene where the accident where the cop actually stops them was when they hit a deer, and that pays off in that, it's about his mother when he goes through the hypnosis. His mother was hit by a car, and he just sat watching TV, and it turns out she was alive for a while, and she was just dying there at the side of the road like the deer. So that was pretty interesting. I like the way they handled the hypnosis scene, in that it wasn't just them sitting in a chair. I thought that was pretty creative visual to make it more interesting.
Sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
Yeah, I agree with you. That caught me off guard too, because you're not expecting that at all.
Yeah, it's a little bit more sci-fi than horror, but
Yeah.
it was more visually interesting than just seeing the whole scene with them just sitting in a chair for the whole scene. So.
Yeah, I can tell you my first reaction when I saw it the first time was, this movie's going someplace weirder than I thought it was, but obviously we know it's not real. So
Yeah. Then we get a little bit more of him talking to the servants. And again, on second viewing, knowing that it's grandparents, you can understand why they talk the way they do and why the interaction is so awkward.
A real doggone keeper.
Right. I wasn't trying to snitch.
Snitch.
Rat you out.
Tattletale.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff there. Then the party scene. This is the only scene that, like, on rewatching is kind of like eye rolling, because it's almost like the Sixth Sense, where it's like on the first viewing, the Sixth Sense is pretty good, but the Sixth Sense can lose a lot because everything is so obvious. Like, oh my God, it's obvious that he's dead, It's like with this party scene, which lasts a really long time, it's really obvious that they're checking him out to see if he's good material to get their brain transferred into,
Oh,
Not bad. Hey, Nielsen? So, is it true? Is it better?
wow.
yeah, I think you're right in terms of repeated viewings. It's not going to have the same impact. Like I said, it had been 3 years since I'd seen it last, so it was still fresh to me this time around. I think it would take another viewing close to this one to be able to say whether or not that has the same kind of impact. You're probably right. Again, it was fresh to me last night because it had been so long since I'd seen it. So I don't have any complaints about it, put it that way.
Yeah. Again, first viewing, and if you're not going to watch it very often, it's not bothersome. It's the second time I watched it, but still, it was just a little like, all right, stop beating us over the head with, we get it,
Oh, that's quite a grip. Black is in fashion.
It's revealed in the game of bingo that they were talking about playing, that they're all there trying to get his body. Eventually, it's revealed to Chris when he finds the photos from Rose of her previous boyfriends, the groundskeeper was the boyfriend previously, and the maid was also a girlfriend.
Right.
And again, who has actual photos? It's like a girl in their mid-20s is not going to go get like photos like developed and like stuff like that. She's not going to have a box of photos there, but I guess they
No,
need to have it.
unless she's got one of those weird collector types that, sometimes you have serial killers who will collect something from each of their victims or whatever like that. But beyond that, it doesn't make sense because she was only using them as a boyfriend or a girlfriend material for a very short time. There'd be no reason to keep those memories.
Yeah, and no actual reason to like develop photos. People take photos on their phone. They don't go
Right.
and develop them, especially a young girl like that. But I guess they felt it was necessary, or Jordan did, for the movie. But it was just kind of like, oh, come on, are we going there? And a lot of these things that seem a little dated could be part of what influenced him to make the film. Because I don't know from you've watched a lot of films as well, but watching this, it reminded me of a lot of horror films I'd seen in the past. Like Wicker Man had a very similar plot to this, where it's just like this guy goes to a place, sees a fish out of water, everyone there seems weird. They really know what's going on. He doesn't. They're really there to like kill him, where there's like kill him, there's like take his body, but they're there for some nefarious purpose for him, and it's all a ruse. And it felt very similar to that, like Stepford Wives, things like that.
Right.
Did you get that vibe?
Yep, and there's another movie I'm actually going to be rewatching again tomorrow called Messiah of Evil from the early 70s. A very similar thing where there's weird stuff going on. Dead and Buried is another one from the early 80s. Weird stuff going on. People come in and then not understand. Even Children of the Corn, Stephen King, was kind of similar to that as well, But yeah,
Yeah.
you're totally right. You do have to suspend disbelief on films like this because, like you said, in the real world, there's no way something like this is going to happen, could happen. I mean, just the fact with social media alone that the girl could have multiple boyfriends over the years and nobody knows about it. It's implausible, but you suspend that and you just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, because I mean, all these people and no family members, no former flames, no friends. It's just this guy and his TSA sidekick,
Yeah.
are the only ones that are going to the cops or like really worried about what's going on. So, and it's not like to say these people were captured a long time ago. They're all fairly young. And they have to be young because she's the same age in the photos. They're the same age in the photos. So these things happen in a relatively short period of time where it's like, all right, um, people would be worried. Uh, I thought that one of the payoff that I thought was interesting in that I think that for me, the comedy took away from the movie, where it's like I felt if this was a little bit more serious because he's dealing with the racial element, this could have been a powerful film. And I thought one thing that was pretty interesting was Cotton was a big plot point in that. Obviously, the history, we don't have to get into that, but he pulled cotton from the chair to plug his ears so he wouldn't hear the tea clanging. So I thought that was pretty clever. I thought everything I didn't have any major problems with the film. I thought it was good. I thought it could have been better, but again, if it's the director's vision, I can't argue with that. The only part that I didn't like was Rose was an interesting character to me up until it's revealed that she's part of it. Then she loses all of her personality and she becomes this like stock movie villain.
Where are those keys, Rose?
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
She has her hair slicked back. She's dressed like a Stepford wife. She's talking very monotone. She's pulling out the shotgun and like a Terminator.
Grandma.
It's like, where did this character come from? What movie am I watching all of a sudden? I just didn't like her character switch because I felt like she's in another movie that I'm watching suddenly, But overall, I kind of liked everything the way it wrapped up. Any thoughts on the wrap up or any overall thoughts on the rest of the film?
No, to me, it's an enjoyable film, and like I said, I saw it 3 years apart. Maybe that's the kind of way you should see it. You know, I could see watching this movie again at some point, and maybe even multiple times, but give it a little time. This isn't a once a year movie for me, and I do have a lot of once a year movies, but this isn't one of them. But I did like it, and you know, like I said, maybe every 3 years.
I mean, I told you not to go in that house.